a lot of times, yeah, some people are going to get pissy with you because they're not going to like you calling them on their stuff, but it can also help them to say, okay, you know what? Lexi is not going to be the one that I can lie to. So I'm going to make sure that I come correct with all of my details and on time. Now, other people, you have to be cautious with them as they will try to boy, how do I say this? They can lie in circles. Now, written communication documentation is an excellent thing. Yes, it can absolutely um, prove useful, for the scenario that I just previously provided. But for others, even with written documentation, they can be a little crafty. So you're going to have to be prepared again to check in maybe frequently with them. Again, if these are projects that you're working on alongside each other to say, hey, how's this going? What's this going on here? Hey, you want to get together and have a meeting? Just want to check in and see how this is moving along. I found that that approach helped a lot because that then allowed us to have conversations. So I'll say this for the liar who perhaps is hiding their inadequacy, sorry, for liars who are hiding their inadequacies, it may be a great idea for you to get together with them a little bit to make sure that things are moving along. And if it is your expertise that you're partnering with them, and that hey, if this is a joint project and you're concerned that, hey, maybe you're dealing with liar type number C who's going to steal credit for it, that you make sure you find your way into the credits of the project, right? Whether if you're sending out communication to somebody else to review it, you make sure they tag you on the email, you make sure they mention you in the email. And if they fail to do that, you know what, you politely insert yourself and say, hey, Jane, looking forward to getting your feedback. John and I worked hard on this together, you know. So these are just some things that you'll want to keep in mind. Now, looking at or deciphering who is lying to you, of course, there are some physical, behavioral characteristics that you can look out for. The stereotypical fidgeting, blinking, sweating, skin flushing, stammering. Now, some people stammer just because they're nervous, so I wouldn't necessarily rely on that particular thing, but it can sometimes be a tip that someone may be telling a tall tale to you. Um, Now, communication 101 is important. So, when you think of communication 101, the big thing that the experts drive home is listening. So, this is where you may have to turn on those listening ears to really dive into what someone is saying to you. If you're not sure about, is this person a liar or is there something else going on? Now, the way I have learned to detect liars over the years has really been to hone in on the story that they're telling you and how consistent is that story. And if you ask them the same question tomorrow, can they give you the same story? Usually, liars have a hard time telling the same story. Some liars talk too much. So they sometimes if you just sit there and let them ramble, they will kind of talk themselves uh, in such a circle that the lie will become very obvious to you. Again, consistency in what's being said, accuracy, based on what you know about a given situation, process, policy, your own expertise, what it is, if you're dealing with technology, what do you know about the technology? And is what this person telling you, does it line up with what you know to be true about the technology? There's a lot of things that you can pick up if you just listen to what's being said to you. Um, it's okay for people to go back and correct a statement that they have made. Sometimes they might say, hey, oh, I'm sorry, I left this piece out, because we're all human. People are people. So our minds are sometimes racing 100 miles per hour, and we just don't remember all the details to give in a situation. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Don't assume that someone is lying just because they left out a chunk of information. Leaving something out versus consistency is not always one and the same. So if it makes sense that they suddenly reach back and say, "Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I left out this huge chunk of information," you know, kind of, be open to receiving the chunk of information. But, if it doesn't sound like, if it doesn't sound tangible, like realistic, then that is often a cue that someone is lying to you. So, how do we navigate these situations? I would just say know your personal limits in dealing with a liar. Don't be afraid to call them out on it. You can always call out a liar. There is a way to tactfully do that. I told you about the written communication. That's one of my favorite ways to call out liars is to actually pull out written communication and to say, not necessarily to say, bam, remember we talked about this on this date. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. It becomes more of a, well, hey, we had this conversation on this date and I sent this follow-up email and here's where I said this is what I needed. You can use that and if you do it enough, they will know that okay, I can't lie to this person because they sent this email, they're going to pull this email out and then I'm going to have to explain myself and my performance, right? So for when dealing with subordinates or even coworkers, um, your peers, definitely that's a way to handle it. If you're afraid to deal with confrontation, that's like a whole other podcast, how to handle confrontation, crucial conversation, having the tough conversations. That's something that you have to build upon, or it has to be kind of ingrained in you. Again, I struggle with lying to my boss. I'm not going to be good at telling you, oh, yeah, it's great if I don't think it's great. Um, you know, there are ways, obviously, to communicate if you don't think something is great. And, you know, you just kind of have to choose how it is you relay that information. But anywho, yeah, I think just being able to navigate those situations and be receptive if you're asking people for their honest opinion. Take their honest opinion. Don't get mad at them when they give you their honest opinion because again, the goal is for them not to lie to you. You may not agree with the feedback that they give you, but receive it. Take what you can from it. If it's nothing you can use, hey, put it off to the side mentally and move on to the next thing. But don't retaliate against someone for telling you the truth when you ask for their honest opinion. So that concludes my podcast for today. Thanks for listening to the People Are People podcast, life lessons learned in real time with your girl Lexi Mahari. Please stay safe, take care, and God bless.